One night I was home by myself and my phone went and it was a US number, and I remember thinking, oh my, has something terrible happened? Why is someone from Simon & Schuster ringing me in the middle of the night? It was my editor on the phone and she said, your book's going to be a New York Times bestseller. Before I settled down as a writer, I had a career that took me through some weird and wonderful trajectories. My first proper job was working in a bakery. I used to work as a Saturday girl in a children's bookshop, taught English as a foreign language for a while, and eventually ended up working in publishing as a publicist. All through my teens and 20s, I was writing alongside a day job until eventually I had my kids. Being on maternity leave gave me the headspace to write, but I was staring down the barrel of having to go back to work at this fairly demanding job. And I thought, if I don't do something to keep this thing that I love in my life, I am going to lose it. That was what pushed me to start taking my writing more seriously and to start trying to make a career out of it.
I came to Gallery Books in 2014, and we were starting a brand new literary imprint called Scout Press. And the publisher and I were very picky about who we wanted to be the first author to launch this list. And so it was a very busy submission weekend, and I had 10 manuscripts to read. But when I fished out In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware, with the pitch that said, a bachelorette party goes horribly wrong, I knew that none of those other manuscripts were going to be read. I marched into my publisher's office that Monday morning and said, I found it. I found the one that's going to launch Scout.
I guess I'm intrigued by the ripples that happen in a life when it collides with something extraordinary. The books that I've made my name with, I guess, are all pretty uniformly whodunits. What I tend to write more is closed circle mysteries, which is the idea of a mystery set in a location or a situation where only a very small group of characters could have committed the crime. All of my books in some way are an exploration of my own kind of private fears and phobias. What makes for a compelling scene is friction between the characters. You're forcing them to rub against each other, and that's when the sparks start to fly and the tension kind of really starts to mount. I'm now 9 or 10 books into my career. One of the interesting things is kind of how the process of writing has changed over the years. Writing In a Dark, Dark Wood was just a kind of pure joy. I didn't know if it was going to be published. I was writing it 95% for me. My second book, The Woman in Cabin 10, which came out the following year, was a polar opposite writing experience. I was very aware that I was writing a follow-up to this book that was getting more acclaim than I had really anticipated. As a result, I kind of threw everything but the kitchen sink at that book. I think I was just so desperate to show that, I wasn't a one-trick pony. And since then, I guess my books have kind of fluctuated a bit. There's action-packed ones like One by One. There's kind of lyrical ones like The Death of Mrs. Westaway. The It Girl was an interesting one because it was written hard on the heels of the pandemic. That book is one of the longest of my career, and it was written almost as quickly as In a Dark, Dark Wood. It just kind of poured out of me in this sort of stream of desperation to finally get back to the writing. And so that was wonderful because it reminded me both what a joy writing is, but also how essential it is to my mental health. That's probably been the kind of trajectory of my career, just trying to kind of just return to that sheer sense of fun that I had with In a Dark, Dark Wood. I'm quite often asked if there are characters I would go back to. I write standalones.
When Ruth told me that she wanted to bring back Low Blacklock from The Woman in Cabin 10, I was giddy with happiness. And because I've edited all of Ruth's novels, I could tell by page 5 that she was so giddy and happy to be writing back in the voice of Lo again herself.
Most of my books are something extraordinary happening to a regular person, and that regular person being asked to step up to the plate in some extraordinary way, and just realizing that they are stronger, wiser, more capable than they ever realized. I suppose that's what I'm trying to teach myself with my books. The real reason why I write is that extraordinary human-to-human connection. It's knowing that you are giving a part of yourself, a manuscript that you've poured your own experiences and your own humanity into, and you're handing that over to a reader who is pouring so much of their own experiences into it. They're bringing a bit of themselves to your character, to your setting, and that is just an extraordinary magic that I will never get tired of trying to recreate.